All right. So let's go over the review for the navigation again. We'll take it from the top here. And let's see. Let's just kind of mix it up. I'll just keep going, and then we'll touch base again with the beginning. So what is a SID route?
Standard instrument departure.
Okay. And what is a star then?
Standard terminal arrival route.
Okay. So why is it important that we have SIDs and stars? Like, what does it do for us?
Cuts down on the ATC and the pilot workload.
Great. And what else does it do? Does anybody else have anything to add to that?
Depending on the direction, it is kind of a segue from your en route to the airport, an efficient segue.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So what are 3 different types of satellite-based navigation?
WAS.
GPS.
GMSS.
Okay. Any more?
RVSM.
RVSM isn't necessarily satellite-based navigation. RVSM is just our it's just an airspace to help us reduce traffic.
I think I heard WAS, but there's also LAWS, local as well as wide.
Okay. Yeah. So let's think routes too on our high in route and low in route. What kind of routes do we see on those?
Well, I mean, like,
What?
Jet.
is that a separate question? Or?
No. So it's still the same question. So what types of satellite-based navigation do we see on a high in route chart or a low in route chart?
Oh, okay. See. I don't know.
Well,
Okay.
wouldn't it be like so low in route charts? You see green or blue, which means approach procedures, and brown is non-approach procedure.
Nope.
Oh, that's not it.
Nope. Not quite what we're looking for.
Do you
here.
want ILS, VOR, LOC?
So those are approaches. We're getting closer.
Okay.
We're getting closer.
Is the high elevation GPS?
What's this one?
Tango route.
Yeah, T route.
Term.
Okay.
So it is
A T
jet
route.
Victor, Q.
So a jet route isn't satellite-based navigation. That's using ground-based navigational aids.
A Q route is.
Yeah, a Q route. So T routes and Q routes. So if we look here at the high, we'll see a Q route, right? And so I'm trying to make this very visual for you guys to kind of help out. I think visual aids are kind of the best help on a test for me, at least.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a visual learner. But if you look here, so our jet routes, what's this? Does everybody see my mouse?
No, I can't.
It disappeared.
So you mean like a vortex?
So what's this? Okay, yeah, VORTAC, VOR. Okay, and what's this? Can you guys see where I'm pointing at over here?
Oh yeah.
What's
That's
this?
that's a VOR station.
Yeah, so it's ground-based navigational aids, right? And the jet route is what connects the two, right? Does our Q route follow that same route? Can you guys see that? Does the Q route follow the
It,
same route?
I mean, kind of. It doesn't
Yes.
overlap it, but
Right.
it's following the same direction.
Parallels it almost, but at the same time we have this. What's that? Do you guys remember what that?
The waypoint.
Yeah, it's a GPS waypoint. So it's not using any ground-based navigational aids to help us. It is solely going off of GPS signal, right? So our Q route is only using GPS signals. And if we go to the low route will use a mix of the two. But once again, it's using GPS waypoints and ground-based navigational aids to help fly. And they don't even really use the ground-based navigational aid if they're just flying a T route. There's still GPS waypoints along that way, right? So our T routes and Q routes, okay, and then
So T routes and Q routes, you are using the high.
so T routes are using low.
Okay.
T routes, you can kind of equate them to the Victor routes. They're the low altitude. And then our world high maps, so our high en route charts, use Q routes, and you can equate those to the J routes, the jet routes. You guys mentioned WAS. WAS is one. In the commercial industry, I haven't heard of the LOS being used as much, or the GLONASS. I think those are more military. I may be wrong on that, so you guys would need to let me know if I am in your research. But I think those are more like what are assisting these the satellite navigation. It's not necessarily what we use for satellite navigation. So another answer would be what do we use on our approaches? Let's go into an approach here at Salt Lake International. What kind of approach is this? Right.
I can't see anything.
Hold on. Well, give me 1 second.
Oh, okay.
What is this approach?
Let's see.
This one right here.
The RNAV GPS from like 385.
Okay. Exactly. So RNAV, right? RNAV is another satellite-based navigation. Another one that is similar to and is used as a type of GPS would be what we call RNP. Okay. We also have LNAV and VNAV. Right. So any of those, me visually, it helps me a little bit better when, like I think about the T routes and Q routes, and RNAV. I think those are pretty simple answers because it's very visual to me. I haven't seen anything that says GLONASS or LOS or anything like that on my charts. so me visually, the easiest way to remember it is a T and a Q route. RNAV, you can say R and P, and I don't think Adam would mark you wrong for saying like WAS or GLONASS, but
So the T routes and the Q routes are linked to the satellite navigation.
yeah, so they're
That's
going
what,
off of GPS navigation. So we kind of want you guys thinking more in line with what you will apply as a dispatcher.
Okay.
Not as much, you know, all the technical like things, but like what applies to me as a dispatcher. I think that'll be a little more beneficial. Not that those answers are wrong, but
I'm
yeah.
just trying to keep all my information organized in a way that I can understand it. That's all.
Yeah.
In my notebook.
No problem. So yeah. Any of those would work. So going along with that, we just kind of looked at the charts a little bit. So what are 3 types of ground-based navigational aids?
VOR,
ILS,
ILS,
LOC, and BD.
Yeah, Corey, the T routes and Q routes would be acceptable answers to that question. So TQ, RNAV, RNP, GPS, WAS, any of those. So yeah, for the ground-based navigational aids, we're looking for like exactly like you guys said, looking for VORs, Vortex, DMEs, NDBs. Let's see.
Is it NBD or NDB?
NDB.
NDB.
Yeah, non-directional beacon.
Cool.
So let me show you what those look like on the charts here. Let's see if we can find this one really quick. Should be able to. Let's go to the low chart. So non-directional beacon is not as mainstream these days. In fact, I think it's kind of a dying form. They use it mostly for like reference. But this is what an NDB looks like on your chart. It's this little circle with these
we
dots.
Can't see anything.
Oh, okay. This is what it looks like. This gold symbol here with the little circle in the center, and then dots in concentric circles around it. Like you can see here on the map, there is nothing there's no navigational routes on it. It mostly is just an aid to help us find certain waypoints. And even then, it's not really used very often, I would say. And the reason why is because a VOR, if you look at this VOR, a VOR is an NDB that sends out radials. And so it sends out a signal saying this is what radial you're on. So we can use it for actual navigation. We can't NDB, you can't you just kind of get like a mileage off of it, and kind of like a DME. Let's see.
Was an NDB like the original like instrument that did that, and then they upgraded to a VOR, like just added onto it, or are they two like completely separate systems?
No, it's a separate system. But
Okay.
yeah, like good old Wikipedia says here. The signal transmitted does not include inherent directional information. Those are the words I was looking for, but for some reason I couldn't come up with them. My brain's semi-fried from everything that's been crammed into it lately, but
I understand
you guys are kind of in the same
so
boat.
much.
But yeah, so NDBs are there, but they're not the center of attention anymore. It beats. So in St. George, you can see these. So this is what they used to use way back in the day, in the 1930s. On this circular pad, there was like a lighthouse type structure. And then this arrow. And this is actually in St. George. This is the one, I think, that overlooks Washington. Or Hurricane, actually. Yeah, I think this is the Hurricane one. But yeah, this is what they used to use for navigation. Back in the good old mail days of the 1930s, 1920s, and 30s. They'd see a light on the horizon, they'd fly to the light, and they'd see this arrow, and they knew to keep flying that direction. Kind of crazy, huh? So I mean, it's a big upgrade from that, but still not near the technology we have now. But
Well, they weren't going 0.82 Mach either at 41,000. So
exactly, they were like 100 feet over those arrows if they were lucky. But yeah, they worked. They pioneered the way for what we use today. So, anyways, just kind of fun. Once again, visual learner, so it's kind of fun to point stuff like that out. VORs, VORTAC, TACANs, ILS, localizers. Any of those will be acceptable answers for ground-based navigational aids. So, going back to RVSM, what does RVSM stand for again?
Reduced vertical separation minimum.
Yep. So, what are the flight levels associated with RVSM airspace?
290 and 410.
Flight level 29,000.
Yeah, 29,000 and 41,000.
Yeah. So perfect. And just for bonus points, what is the separation? What does it reduce the separation to?
From 2,000 to 1,000 feet.
Exactly. So basically, it's allowing us to double the traffic we have with those reduced separation minimums. So once again, we kind of went over this, but name 3 different types of airways found on navigational charts.
Jet Airways, Victor Airways, and Q Airways.
You.
Okay. And let's see. What is the difference between a precision approach and a non-precision approach?
Oh.
A precision approach has vertical and horizontal navigation, and a non-precision only has horizontal.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So, so can somebody name what a precision approach would be? Just name it.
ILS, VOR.
So an ILS is a precision approach. VOR would be a non-precision approach, right?
Wouldn't it be?
MLS microwave.
I know it. ILS and it was on the top of my head 2 seconds ago.
Precision approach. I've got MLS, TLS, RNP.
RNP, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, a VOR would be a precision approach. Sorry about that.
A VOR is precision. Oh, I've had it down here, non-precision.
Hold on. I was thinking the same thing because I think this is messed up. Let me double check that.
Okay.
Let me go back to my notes really quick.
Yeah, because that doesn't provide altitude.
Right. It just that's a horizontal.
If you're flying a DME or something, or a HLS or something.
Right. Yeah, I think, let's see. I know I've got it right here. I've got it all segregated into, off the top of my head, VOR is not a precision approach, but.
So that's what Adam said, or Adam had us write that down.
Right. So VOR is a non-precision. ILS would be considered a precision approach because it provides both vertical and horizontal direction. So yes, you guys are right. All right. And let's see. I think. Oh, what class of airspace are most major airports located again?
Bravo.
Okay. And for kicks and giggles, what is our speed restriction in Bravo airspace?
250 knots.
Perfect. You know what? I'm also rereading the question about the types of satellite-based navigation. That would be your WAAS, your GLONASS, your GPS, your And then the routes that it asks for would be your T, your Q, RNAV. So yes. I'm sure that's what Adam said too, right? Since he reviewed this with you guys. Because I think what he's wanting on this question is your types of satellite-based navigation would be like what are the systems that allow you to do the satellite navigation, and then the route question is him asking for a you know, specifically what uses that system. So does that make sense? Did I confuse everybody?
No. I got just a tiny little bit confused when you asked the question about satellite-based navigation, high and low end chart, because I thought the question was types of satellite navigation. Right. But either way, it was great. It was great.
Right. Thank so we went into the types of the routes, and looking back on it and rereading the question, it's asking for the type. So you guys were absolutely right when you were saying loss, GLONASS, WAS, you know, all of those.
However, yours is, I think, a lot more relevant because it's going to tell us which ones we're going to be using for the particular charts.
Right.
So in terms of application, yeah, that's a whole different question, maybe.
Right. In talking about precision approaches, your GPS approaches would also be considered a type of precision approach. If you said RNAV or RMP, LNAV, VNAV, those are also types of precision approaches. Your non-precision approaches, you guys could do VOR.
LOC.
Your localizer approach. Your VOR, I think I already said that.
DME.
Yeah, your DME, your NDB approach, your ARC approach. What is that? DME ARC. Yeah. So any of those would be acceptable. Types of non-precision approaches. Anyways, do you guys have any questions about anything we covered tonight, or covered with that, or?
No.
You guys feel like we covered it pretty good, and you're going to be ready for the test tomorrow?
I feel like one of the questions were the difference between RVSM and normal airspace. Is that one of the questions, or did you already go over that?
I think it just asks what RVSM is.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're trying to get out of you is like, what is RVSM airspace?
Okay.
So,
do we have to know the different have the different ILS categories memorized?
Like, what do you mean by ILS categories? So you talking the A, B, C, D? What specifically about them?
Like, I was just like, I have category 1, 2, 3, and then like all the information on each one of those categories.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Like, do I need to have that memorized for the test? I have it written down. I just wasn't sure.
Not as much. So with the ILS approaches, what you need to remember is just what type of approach it is. So when we talk about category 1, 2, and 3, is just reducing the minimums of that landing. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
kind of adding on to that, just another question, what type of approach will give you the lowest minimums?
ILS.
Great. Yeah, so ILS is our most precise approach into an airport. So when we're asking you guys, in the near future to give us like alternate minimums for an airport, you guys will start with the ILS approaches. If it has an ILS approach, 99.999% of the time, I can't think of any other time that this would be wrong, but your ILS is going to give you the lowest minimums. So that's where we want you guys to look first, is see if it has an ILS approach.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had all the like category 1 half mile and 2400 RVR and but I'll just okay. Just checking.
All right. So that being said, why don't we take, unless there's more questions, why don't we take, do you guys want like the longer break now, or would you guys like a shorter break now and then we can do a longer break in like an hour or so?
Let's do the shorter break now.
Does everybody agree?
Yep.
Unless I'm outvoted.
All right. So why don't we go till 6:45 and then jump back on?
Cool.
Yep.
Well, so we're gonna go over NOTAMs now. I know Adam probably, gave you a little information. There may be a little bit of crossover here, but we're going to talk about NOTAMs and why they apply to us and why they're important.
Is this a part of the communication section, or is this a different section?
Yes, this is communications. So what is a NOTAM? What does NOTAM stand for?
Notice to airmen.
Perfect. Okay. So what is a DNOTAM? Or what, better than that, what are the 3 types of NOTAMs?
I've only got D and FDC.
Okay. Okay, there's one more type that we don't really use. It's called an M NOTAM. So a D, M, and an FDC NOTAM.
Do you want me to write anything down about the M NOTAM if we don't use it?
No. I think a question that you'll get asked at one point in time, probably on the ADX, is what are the 3 types of NOTAMs? So I would just write down that the 3 types of NOTAMs are D, M, and FDC.
Okay.
What does a DNOTAM specifically tell us about?
It's information on the status of your navigational equipment.
Okay. More than that, though.
Runways, taxiways, radios, like your physical equipment at the airport.
Okay. So a DNOTAM, the D is somehow related to local. So a DNOTAM is a local NOTAM, is what they call them. So yeah, it's basically the things that are happening in the vicinity of the airport or around the airport. that affects us pilots. So what is an FDC NOTAM specifically talking about?
Changes or irregularities to like your instrument procedures, like your SIDS and STARS and ILS.
Perfect. So yeah, your FDC NOTAMs just notify you of anything that pertains to your navigation coming into the airport. So more specifically, the routes. So in and out, I guess you'd say. So are we really worried about some of the key words in our NOTAMs?
Yes.
Okay. So what are you guys looking for? Do you guys know how to read these fairly well? Did he go over how to read them?
We were going over them, and I think that's when things started to get iffy.
Okay. So does anybody want to take a stab at this one?
I can try.
Okay.
Except for the parenthesis part, I don't know what that is, but okay. See, there's a section of the airport that is closed, and that is apron. That's axis 14 of the apron on an air carrier. The date is the 3rd of February at 18:30 Zulu. Oh no, sorry, it's February 3rd, 2018. It is, I don't know what 30 is, but 2018 until created. I don't know the last part where it says all the times, but I know just what part of the airport's closed, like an
Okay.
apron.
I just noticed that those were not the raw ones. So we can kind of divide our NOTAMs up into sections. So this is the same one that you were just reading. So what this is telling us is this is the location. So this is Salt Lake City Airport, right? And then this is the affected area, okay? So this is only affecting the Salt Lake City Airport. This 2 here, the first 2 numbers, and I want you guys to write all of this down because you'll be required to read these NOTAMs. And you
So write the
got it.
NOTAMs down.
Yeah, so if you guys just want to write down basically this right here, you don't have to write that exclamation point, but write that down and let's dissect it really quick, okay? And I highly recommend you guys jump on. And do a little bit of research on top of this. We're going to cover as much of it as we can. But there's some really good information, just a quick Google search to kind of build on the information that we give you. And so I highly recommend that you guys jump on and do a little extra research on top of what we do. There's a lot of really good videos on YouTube. In fact, I can post one during our lunch break. I'll go grab the link and I'll post one on our Google Drive for you guys to look at about decoding these NOTAMs. But yeah, super important. So write down this SLC 02/011, SLC APRON, air carrier APN access 14 closed, and then that timestamp.
So under this, right, after writing this, I'll just go on top like that. But I'll just put NOTAM, or I'll just put decode and NOTAM.
Yeah. So any way you want to write that, as far as um, like dissecting it, but I'll show you the different parts of the NOTAMs and what they mean. So, does everybody have it written down?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So once again, this is going to be our identifier. This is the location that's reporting the NOTAM. Okay. So Salt Lake City Airport. This 02 here will be our month. This is the month that the NOTAM was written. And then this 11 would be the 11th NOTAM of February. So this is the month. This is the number of the NOTAM. This is basically they'll start writing NOTAMs, and every NOTAM gets the next number. Does that make sense? They just go in that sequential order. So
what do you want me to label it as?
I would just say like the 11th NOTAM, the number of the NOTAM for the month. Okay. And now this SLC here, write the affected area. Okay. Now this, I'm going to call this the keyword right here. Okay. You may see apron. You may see OBST. You may see taxiway, the TWY. You may see runway. You may see SID. Oh, wait, no, that's FTC. Sorry. You may see like nav, lights, any one of those things. But the keyword is kind of your trigger. This is what, when we're looking at NOTAMs, the DNOTAMs, I want you to be scanning for is this keyword. Because only certain NOTAMs will actually apply to us dispatchers. So this section here we're gonna call the keyword. Okay. This is the note, right? Basically the remarks section of it. And then this is the affected time.
So sorry, that's the effective time, and what else before you said that?
This section, I'd say the remarks, I would call it the remarks section.
Okay.
So I thought that Salt Lake would produce a little bit more fun NOTAMs than this, but we'll go over this one.
And then you said that those numbers were what?
This is the timestamp. This is the effective time. Does everybody have all that?
Are we gonna break down the timestamp too?
Yep. I'm going to go over what these mean here. So like I said before, this is the reporting station. This is the first NOTAM. I'm sorry, this is January. Okay, January is the first month. And then this is the 250th NOTAM of January. Okay. Salt Lake City is the affected area. APRON, anybody have any guess on what the apron is?
An apron is like wouldn't that be the private side, like the general aviation?
Nope.
No?
So apron is a synonym to ramp. So the parking, boarding area, whatever you want to call it, but the apron is the same thing as the ramp. You may see apron, you may see ramp.
But they're both the same.
But they're the same thing. Okay. This just says that the air carrier apron access 18, which is just a location. So I don't know if you guys know the Salt Lake Airport very well, but they're basically reconfiguring it to run from, rather than from the north to south, they're basically turning it east-west and making it a lot bigger. This 18 is on that east-west side. They're currently building an entire new terminal there. So, but this, and then the CLSD just means closed. So that air carrier apron access spot 18 is closed. Okay. You don't need to worry about that so much. You just need to know that that's where the remarks are going to be found. Now let's break down this timestamp. They use a military style timestamp here. The 18. Anybody have an idea what that is?
Year.
Year. Okay. The month. The date. And this is the time in
Zulu.
Zulu. That universal time.
Are we on the same? I don't think we're on the same note.
Well, either way, what we're up here a little bit lower or higher. It says the same exact thing, right? So
Okay.
18. It's just February, third day of February at 1830 Zulu, and it's effective until 2020. So August 21st, 2020 at 2359 Zulu. So as you can see, NOTAMs can last for any amount of time. Like they used to be able to just have them open-ended, and it would be like until further noticed. but now they require them to put a time in here, a closing time for that NOTAM.
What should I write in for that last little part of the timestamp again? That starts with 2008. I'm sorry.
Oh, so this is just the time period that it's effective from. So it's the same format as this side. So 2020.
It's just your effective until date?
Yep.
Okay.
And then August 21st, 2020 at 23:59 Zulu.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, anybody have any questions just on that one? Just any of the sections? We'll go into a little bit more fun of an airport. So we'll kind of, none of these NOTAMs, just like doing a quick scan. I can literally scan through this NOTAM section about that fast and see that absolutely none of these NOTAMs, these D NOTAMs, affect me as a dispatcher. So we're gonna teach you like what keyword to look for as a dispatcher. Okay. So let's jump. The only way to really do that is to, look at NOTAMs. Okay. I can already see one. So let's look at this. Okay, does anybody want to take a stab at this one right here?
All right. The location is at Denver International. 12 is the month, and that's the 700th NOTAM, but I feel like that's a little too excessive.
Nope.
But, okay, so that's the 700th NOTAM. And then the other den is the affected area. It's runway 16 left, or THL, runway lighting system, or no, sorry.
You're close. What do you think the T stands for?
Threshold.
Yep, the TH is threshold. So runway threshold lights.
Okay, runway threshold lights are out of service. And then it was in 2017 at the 12th month of the 27th day at 13:31 Zulu, and that's affected all the way until the year 2018 of February the 28th at 2100 Zulu Eastern time. Oh, well, that is not the same. So, but 2100 Zulu.
So 2100 Zulu, this EST stands for estimated.
Okay.
So pretty good job. So if you were to read this to a pilot, basically you just say Denver runway 16 left, runway threshold lights out of service, and that's going to be effective till February 28th, 2018 at 2100 Zulu. So that's how you'd read it. If you're asked in like a practical or an interview type scenario, you'd say Denver, December 700th NOTAM of December, runway 16 left, runway threshold lights out of service, and then you just say December 27th with an effective time of December 27th, 2017 at 13:31 Zulu. till February 28th, 2018 at 2100 Zulu estimated. So
I haven't really seen any where like the location that's being reported in the affected area are different.
right.
Would one airport just contact another airport and say, hey, by the way, this needs to...
It just depends. These are main hubs, so you probably won't see that because they have their own weather reporting source, or they have their own source of being able to report it. Denver may report for a smaller airport next to it. You know, like this one, you might see a different location on a different airport. There's just times. You're right. Like 99.9% of the time, you're going to see the same on either side.
Okay.
But yeah, but this one, just kind of fun. What do you think AD means? This is another keyword.
AD.
Airworthiness directive.
It's aerodrome, but I don't know what that stands for.
Aerodrome. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So aerodrome is airport. It's the airport. So this is just saying that there's a wildlife hazard, increased migratory waterfowl on the approach. So look out for birds when you're coming into the airport. Okay. And then once again, a timestamp.
Do you want me to write down the AD means aerodrome?
Yeah. So we're kind of coming to that right now. So the keywords that you guys really need to pay attention to when you're looking through these D NOTAMs, would be runway, aerodrome. If you see one that's nav, NAV, those are going to be your main ones.
And what was nav?
Yeah, nav. Oh, and then yeah, I mean those are your main keywords that I want you guys to really look out for.
What did nav stand for?
Navigational aids. So, yeah.
Oh, it's
So
not
it's
different
affecting,
when it's in the box.
So it's going to say something to the effect of, we could probably find one really quick, and we're going to look at a couple dozen of these just to help you guys get a little bit of practice. But like this one, runway 16 right, the PAPI is out of service, so the precision approach indicator is out of service. But you may have one that says runway 16 right, ALS out of service. Do you guys remember what the ALS is?
I do not.
ALS.
Yeah, exactly. Approach lighting system. I heard somebody say it. So what would happen to how would that affect us as a dispatcher, the approach lighting system being out?
Would affect the type of approach, so possibly different minimums on an ILS approach, or maybe not able to do an ILS approach at all.
Beautiful. So the ILS approach, your minimums are going to go up if you see an ALS out of service. So if we look here, here's our landing minimums, right? We're looking at, hold on, I just zoomed out so it messed up where I was at. So we're looking at our approach plate coming into ILS runway 7, and we see our ILS approach minimums here. Look at our standard minimums, 200 feet, half mile, so 200 and a half. If our ALS goes out of service, look at what happens to our visibility.
The RVR increases to 4,000 feet, but am I getting it right? It increases to 4,000 feet or 3/4 stability.
Right. So our RVR goes from 1,800 to 4,000, and our visibility requirement goes from a half mile to a 3/4 mile visibility requirement. You think that could cause a problem for us as far as legality reasons?
I think it could.
Yeah, definitely. If Denver's only reporting half mile visibility and our ALS is out of service, we're not legal.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
So that's how NOTAMs can affect us as dispatchers. Something as simple as lights going out of service. We just looked at one today. We kind of do these lessons learned scenarios. We had that exact scenario. It wasn't the same airport. It was a different airport, but the dispatcher had listed an alternate for 16 different flights. They were all going to somewhere in the Chicago, Milwaukee area, and he listed Fort Wayne as the alternate for all of them. Well, Fort Wayne's minimums, if everything was working correctly, he would have been able to list it legally as an alternate. But the approach lighting system was out of service, and so that took his minimums higher and out of legal or out of that legal status. So he went from being listing a legal alternate to an illegal alternate because the approach lighting system was out of service. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
What's interesting, I don't know what's going on. But anyways, so 16 of his flights went from legal to FAR violations because he listed something, he didn't pay attention to his DNOTAMs and listed an illegal alternate. And kind of something to think about is these FAR violations, if the FAA decides to, the minimum fine for an FAR violation is $12,000 that they fine the airline violating the FAR.
Oh my God.
So, not only did the dispatcher violate the FAR, but each one of the captains that didn't catch it were also violating an FAR. So
That was the next thing I was going to say. Don't you have like people look over those before they go out?
Yep, the captain. You and the captain are both responsible for that. So it went from 16 violations to 32 violations and a potential of a fine of $348,000 just because he didn't catch that one NOTAM, you know.
Wow. That's,
I can't even imagine what that would can't imagine what that escalates to if there was a diversion and they couldn't get in and there was an accident. Talk about liability.
Oh yeah. I
no
mean,
pressure. No pressure at all.
Well, okay. As far as pressure goes, it's, you know, luckily it was caught, right? Luckily we caught it, lessons learned, fix the problem, and we move on, right? And if worst case scenario is, you know, well, I guess worst case scenario would be that the pilot runs out of fuel because he's waiting for all alternate minimums, but or the ability to land at the alternate airport. But at the same time, that's why we pad our alternates, right? Is because if worse comes to worse, he's still legal to land, technically. He's just not legal to list it as an alternate. So
what do you mean?
So the pilot,
in cases happen like this, then then are you able to have someone check over your work before you submit it completely, to avoid those kind of things?
Mm,
Or is that just too time consuming?
so no, so there is a dispatch supervisor that's there to assist you if you are running into issues. But if you're not catching something like that, um, you know, we don't. The pilot is there as the second check. The pilot's supposed to be looking at it. You know, he's the verification. He's the one that has to fly the route. He's the one that's there. You know, in the moment, and so he's our second set of eyes. So if the pilot doesn't catch it, you know, that's
Oh, okay.
they're our second set of eyes. It's not that there's nobody here to nobody to help you out when you're dispatching. That's not the case. But you're not going to have another dispatcher sitting there watching you dispatch every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When there's times where you question something or you question the legality or, you know, what to list as an alternate, there's tools that you're provided and help you do your job the right way. And if all else fails and you still have questions about something, you can go to your supervisor or the manager and get more information and get their input on something. But at the end of the day, you are responsible as a dispatcher. Even after you've got the help and the advice, you are still responsible for the safety of that flight. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not trying to scare you. It's just, you know, we got to apply it to a real world scenario and learn from our mistakes. But yeah, that's why paying attention to NOTAMs is so important. But at the same time, we don't want to go through. Um, we at SkyWest, it's an average of 50 to 55 flights a day that you're having pushed to your desk. Do you have time to read every single one of these NOTAMs?
No, you don't.
Especially why would we waste our time trying to translate this when it doesn't even pertain to us? We're concerned about what's happening on the runways, the airport as a whole. We're concerned about the navigation. Some obstructions are, for the most part, aren't going to have a role in what we do as a dispatcher, but at the same time, you kind of got to pay attention to them because they can affect your approach into the airport. Like, say, all of a sudden they put a 100-foot crane up, right off the runway. Um, that could cause potential hazard to our flight, right? There's not a way to sort them by keyword. You just you learn to look only here. You kind of go do a quick scan and you're just looking for those keywords that I told you, nav, runway, aerodrome. Take a quick glance at obstacles. For the most part, obstacles aren't going to affect you at all, so don't spend too much time on the obstacles. In this class, you probably won't have any obstacles affect you, and when you're at SkyWest and on the floor, typically, if an obstacle's affecting an approach, we have what's called the whiteboard, where we can look at it and see if there's any special approach procedures requirements. So that helps us be a little more efficient in our NOTAM search. So that'd be nice if it just, sorted them all to what pertains to us. But yeah, let's try another airport really quick here. So Minneapolis. These FICONs. So runway, right? So we're going to pay attention to this one. FICON stands for field condition. Okay. This is more or less our braking action. And then this tells us, so this is our remarks section, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our field conditions say that there's a rating system to the contamination. We call them contaminations on the runway. So these 3 conditions would be, basically correlate directly to our ability to stop on the runway. This is saying 40% of the runway is compacted snow, and then it gives us a timestamp of when that was observed. So what would that do to our stopping abilities? This kind of tells us 333 means, well, it basically just says that it's moderate braking action, meaning that it's not gonna. We have to extend the distance of our landing roll. Jordan had an experience with a landing roll that we kind of talked about the other day. He learned what nil braking action is.
That's right.
but yeah, that could affect us, right? That tells us that we need to plan for runway contamination. Anything else that anybody sees standing out?
What does BTN mean?
Between.
Between, okay.
So that one right there. I'm guessing this is what you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
So this is just saying Minneapolis, taxiway Bravo between taxiway A3. So between these two taxiways. So you're on Bravo, and between taxiway A3 and taxiway D, field conditions of wet.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so I hope I'm right, but I don't know. I caught one at the very bottom. It says Minneapolis apron the ice pad at runway 17, FICON wet observed at Burlington.
Okay. So does that affect us as a dispatcher?
Yes.
Also, from what I'm understanding, it's basically just meaning, well, it's wet because it's the ice pad, obviously, so it's not really our concern.
Okay. Yeah. So it's on the ramp, right? Are we concerned with ramp conditions?
Yeah.
No, not at all. So pilots are what would be concerned with any of this, right? Taxiways we're not really concerned with. We're concerned with runways, right?
Yes. What is? Oh, never mind. Sorry.
So how would this one affect us? Somebody want to take a stab at that?
Well, what does EXEC stand for? Or execute? No.
Except for taxi.
PPR. Okay, so on April the 22, 22nd NOTAM of April. Runway 4 and 22 are closed. And then what'd you say EXC was?
I want to say this says except for taxi.
Except taxi time is 5 minutes.
So I'm not exactly sure what this PPR is, and you guys won't know what all of these means. Let's see. NOTAM, abbreviation, PPR, right? So this is what I do when I question something on there. I don't know what prior permission required. So like I said, I don't even know what all of the little intricate details of these definitions are or these acronyms. So sometimes I look them up. So what this is saying is that you can't, so runway 4 and 22 is closed except for taxi with 5-minute prior authorization, basically. Prior permission. So you have to ask 5 minutes before you get there if you can use that runway for taxi purposes. What about this one? Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Approach lighting system is out of service for runway 4 at Minneapolis.
Okay. What about this one?
A certain approach is out of service. So the navigation ILS runway 22 localizer approach is out of service at Minneapolis.
So be careful where you put that approach. It's an ILS approach, right?
Oh, okay.
It's not a localizer approach. But what it's saying is the ILS approach, runway 22, the localizer's out of service. Let's go back to our JEP chart. Does the localizer have any effect on our minimums?
I can't spot it. Hold on. Where am I supposed to look on the map for a localizer again? On the bottom. Okay, right there.
So what does that do to our minimums? Our best minimums go from this to this.
So you raise it an extra 100 feet.
Nope.
No.
Try again.
Extra 200.
200 feet. So your ceiling went from a 200-foot ceiling to a 400-foot ceiling. Okay. Your RVR minimum requirement went from an 18 to a 24. Still the same visibility requirement, just your RVR goes up.
So is this pertaining to the number 1 and 2 nav rule?
Yeah, this would have direct correlation to a 1 nav aid, 2 nav aid rule. But remember, we only applied the 1 nav aid, 2 nav aid rule to what airport?
Alternates.
Perfect. Exactly. So if this is our destination airport, and this is the runway we're using, it directly affects our minimums. Let's see, there's some more fun ones here. So runway 22's localizer's out, so is runway 4's. These are the same strip of pavement. So runway 4, runway 2, 22. 22 is the reciprocal of 40, right? 220, 40. So, here you go. We were just talking about this one. What's the difference that you see there, CJ?
Oh, it's the two different like the location and the affected area are different.
Yeah. So the reporting area is different than our affected area, right?
Are they generally airports that are close together? Kind of like you said, it's just like a smaller airport.
Yeah, airports are navigational aids, right? Our affected area is actually a navigational aid.
Oh, okay.
So FGT, if we looked up FGT in SkyVector, we'd find that that's a TACAN. And what it's saying is the azimuth is out of service. So basically it's this thing's toast. The TACAN
permanently
is permanently out of service. So don't use that when you're navigating, right?
Couldn't they just take that off of, like, they could just wipe that out of the system, and then that way they could take the NOTAM off?
Yeah, so
I guess not if people were familiar with it.
Right, so there's, like I said before, there's a required time period that they have to list it. And I don't know the exact reason why they don't, or I don't know the exact time limit that they have to list it before it drops off, but yeah. Sometimes you'll see some really old ones, like that was 2015, right? So is there anything else that you guys see? I mean, there's a whole lot in this at Minneapolis, right?
I'm assuming that the one that your mouse is on is not important.
You'd be right. Why is that?
Because
So you're talking about this one?
Because, I mean, as dispatchers, we don't care about markings of the taxiway. I mean, that
Okay.
doesn't pertain to us.
So what's the key word that we basically discard this one?
Surface markings.
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
Taxiway?
Yeah, taxiway.
Taxiway.
We don't care about the taxiway, right? So like I said before, you guys got to watch out for these keywords, because this, if we're reading the full thing, I mean, although it's pretty quick, some of these can get pretty long-winded, these denotums. So we want to, when we're doing our scan, we want to look for this word right here, and we can follow that all the way down. If you just follow my mouse, you see the keyword every line, right? And it's in the same spot. Taxiway, apron, nav, obstruction.
Then we go to runway.
Mm-hmm. So if I was scanning this, I'd see this one. I go through, and you guys will have paper copies of the NOTAMs when we're doing our flight planning. One thing I recommend that you do when you're looking at the NOTAM sheet is I literally would go through, and I would just, before I'd even look at anything outside of the keyword, I would go through with a highlighter and just mark every single one of the keywords, just to, that pertain to dispatchers. I'd just hit that with a highlighter, and then I'd go back through and read each one of those and see how it pertained to me as a dispatcher. Right?
Government hasn't discovered spreadsheets with column sort yet.
I don't think they ever will. That's too efficient.
Okay, so I got a question. Where it has that gigantic NOTAM that goes past every other number or time, like, it has this 4.6 nautical miles northeast Minneapolis.
Where's that?
You just kind of go down.
Okay.
Just keep going down, and okay, stop. Right where your mouse is now. So it says, go down one more. Yeah, that one. So,
okay. let's look at this one. So what this one is telling us, see, this one's really long-winded. So let me zoom out just a hair. Take this out of the way. Okay. So what this is saying is that Minneapolis, there's an obstruction, right? We don't worry too much about these, but it's a lighted tower. Does that make sense? This gives you your tower identifier number, so we can look. Let's pull up Sky Vector again really quick. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if we can find one of these towers. I'd have to spend some time looking at a map. But anyways, what this ASR number is just an identifier. So every time a tower over a certain height goes up, they have to basically get in contact with a government agency and report, give specifics about the exact location of the tower or obstruction, and it has to comply with certain regulations. And so this number here is the identifier for that tower. Does that make sense? So you could look up ASR 1025246. You could do a Google search on it, and it would pull up information on that, on the specifics of that tower, where it's located, what kind of frequency it broadcasts, or if it's a radio tower, or things of that nature. But this gives us a little more information about it. This tells us the latitude and longitude, right? So this is giving us a coordinates. This is breaking it down into an easier way to understand it. It's basically 4.6 nautical miles northeast of the MSP VOR. Okay. This tells us the height of the tower. The top would be 1,289.4 feet MSL, or 444.9 feet AGL. And then it's telling us that it's out of service from this time to this time. So the tower lights are out of service from this time to this time.
So much numbers and letters for one simple tower information.
Yep. Well, that's important. If you're flying into Minneapolis and you're northeast of the airport, it's just telling a heads up, don't run into the tower. It doesn't have a light on it. Again, that's a lot more on the pilot, right? His job is to see and avoid things like that.
Hey, Garrett.
Yeah.
That one that's terminal, that's just out permanently, are they going to create a notice for that every month then?
Yeah, so you'll see that one. You're talking about this one?
Yes.
So yeah, this one was created the 21st of October 2015. You can see that same information there. You won't always have this created or source, but it has been in the NOTAMs for Minneapolis since 2015, October of 2015. And it was the 112th NOTAM of October that year. So yeah, that one will just continue to pop up until the government feels like it's not necessary to be on there anymore, and then it'll drop off the list.
That also brings up the point, update your sectionals. I mean, you've got to have current maps.
Yeah, pilots. I mean, that's part of the requirement as a pilot to make sure that you have the up-to-date info, right?
That's the first thing that FAA guy grabs when he walks in there and talks to the pilots. Let me see your flight manual.
Yep.
He checks for updated curriculum.
So yeah, I mean, that's like we said before, that's on the pilots to make sure that they're not flying into towers, they're not using closed taxiways. They're abiding by all these NOTAMs. So, and then we as dispatchers have got to look at things like this and know that that's going to extend our landing distance, affect our performance, right? And so that's why we're scanning through these NOTAMs and looking for those corrections or looking for those issues that may affect our flight plan. So anyways, does anybody have any questions so far?
Nope.
So we'll go through and we'll take turns basically decoding these NOTAMs. I'm gonna call break time here, but we'll come back and we'll take turns. I'll find a couple good NOTAMs, and we'll just kind of each get a turn decoding the NOTAM, and you'll get really good at decoding these NOTAMs by the time we get done with class. This is something that we'll continue to practice all the way till the end. So, all right. So let's jump.
For me.
Let's jump back on. How long do you guys need tonight? 30 minutes, 20 minutes?
Let's do 25. Or 30. I'm okay with 30. Or 25.
Okay, let's jump back on 8:15. How about that?
That'll work.
All right. Good. Okay. All right. So I've got some NOTAMs pulled up here. And we're just going to go through one at a time, and you guys are going to take a turn. I know it's not much practice, but hopefully it'll help you guys. And then what I want you guys to do sometime, tonight or just kind of throughout the rest of this course is I want you guys to go in and pull up NOTAMs yourself. Just do a Google search, just do NOTAM. And then click on this notams.aim or Defense Internet NOTAM Service. Click on this one actually. It's notams.faa.gov. And then you can come in here and type in airport codes. And then hit, and click on the raw and then view NOTAMs. That, I just want you guys to just start going through and trying to decode them. If you guys, don't understand what something is supposed to be saying, look up the abbreviation, NOTAM abbreviations, and just kind of figure it out. We're going to give you the basics here, but we can't teach you every single NOTAM code. you wouldn't be able to remember every single NOTAM code if you wanted to, you know. But yeah, just go through and just review them over and over again, because that's what it's going to take to get proficient at them. And like I said, it's always good to get another perspective on how somebody else teaches them, because one way of teaching may be a more effective way for you guys than another. So go on YouTube and just do. I forgot to post the code, but or the link, but I can post it down here in the chat, and then I'll post it on the web page. But yeah, go through this video and just watch it and listen to how this guy explains it, and see if you can pick up on any of the things that he may teach differently or better. and then practice. A lot of these things just take repetitive practice. So yeah. Let's see. I think it's this one that I was looking for. I'll post it on here as soon as I find the video that I was thinking of. But yeah, just continually practice them, and when you run into questions, you can ask me or Adam, and you can also, the more effective way is to look it up and research it yourself, because you learn all the extra stuff on top of it, and you learn how to find things. But we'll go through, we'll practice. I'll just start at the top of the list, have you decode one, and then we'll just move through the list. So CJ, go ahead and give that one a shot.
Okay. So it's in February the 16th, NOTAM. C is going to be our affected area. Where is that at? SEA?
Seattle.
Seattle, okay. And then, let's see, the navigation is the ILS, runway 16C. What's the C?
So that
just
would
like the
center.
like A, B, or C?
Nope.
Center. Okay, and then.
So if you have like a left and right runway, and then a center runway.
Oh, center. Okay.
Yep.
And then the location is out of service. And then it's going to be out of service from, let's see, February 7th, 2018, at 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock.
Okay. So
did I read that back right?
Good job.
From 8 o'clock to noon, or from?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
This one is the localizer, but.
Oh, localizer. My bad.
So no, you're fine. So when it's talking about nav, you're going to have, that's going to be localizer. And this would be important to us. Why again?
Because it's has to do with the runway. It's the center runway is out of service.
Not the center runway, but the localizer.
The localizer.
Right. So
the localizer for the center runway?
Yeah. So the localizer for the runway 16C center is out of service, which means that it increases your minimums, right?
Okay. Let me jot that down.
Okay. Let's see.
It's hard when things look like other things.
Yeah.
Like abbreviations look like other abbreviations.
Right. And that's why, this is going to take a lot of practice, because you gotta see it repeatedly. And so that's why I'm recommending we can go over them as many times as we can in class, but it still requires you guys to go out and go through them and research and try to find those. You can do a quick Google search. Any of you can do a quick Google search and do NOTAM abbreviations, and it'll pull up a good chunk of the abbreviations you'll see in a NOTAM. And then I just put that side by side with your NOTAM page and just start decoding NOTAMs. And that's how you're really going to learn this really well. So, and the same goes with TAFs and METARs and pilot reports. The PIREPs, we'll go over those later. AirMets, SIGMETs. That's how you really grasp what is being said in these. So Corey, why don't you go ahead and give that one a shot?
Looks like in Portland, the 4th notification of February, we got a runway 10 right and 28 left that are closed from February 7th of 18 at 7:30 Zulu until February 7th, 2018, 1 p.m. basically Zulu time.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right. Okay. And Corey? Or sorry, you just read one. Sorry, Evan. Why don't you give that one a...
Okay, so February 7th NOTAM, Portland, runway 10 left and 28 right are closed. Tuesday, 1600 to 1700. Beginning on the 5th of December 2017 at 1600 Zulu, and that extends to the 6th of March 2018 at 1700 Zulu.
Perfect. So yeah, December 7th NOTAM of December, right? So every Tuesday from basically 4 to 5 o'clock, runway 10 left and 28 rights closed. Kind of a bad deal if your ETA is like 16:30, right? You got to make sure that you're not planning this runway. So, and Greg, why don't you give that one?
So again, Portland on the 11th month of 69th, noticed airman in the PDX area, runway 10 right and 28 left closed Thursday, 22:30. The time range 22:30 to 23:30. From the let's see, the 2017 3 11, 17 to 3 of 18, 22:30 to 23:30.
Okay. So the date stamp, so this is your month, this is your year, and this is the day. So November 30th, 2017. And then this would be your timestamp, 22:30. And that extends from March 8th, 2018, or to March 8th, 2018 at 23:30 Zulu.
Okay.
So remember that the first two numbers are your year, the last two numbers of your year. The second two numbers are your month. The third two numbers, set of two numbers, is the date. And then the last four is your Zulu timestamp. So it's not just closed one Thursday, it's every Thursday, right? Just like this one is closed every Tuesday, this one is closed every Thursday, but from 10 o'clock, 10:30 to 11:30 Zulu. So good job. Again, that's important to us dispatchers because if our ETA falls in that time, we can't plan to use that runway. So let's get a little more tricky here. What if we see this airspace keyword? Is that something we'd have to worry about?
Are you talking to one person or all of us?
Just to anybody.
So that would be an en route issue, right? A route planning issue.
So it's talking mostly about the airspace above Atlanta, but no, again, that would be more of a pilot concern. So it's just telling us that a half-mile radius of this coordination or coordinates, right, or Atlanta from the surface to 2,000 feet AGL through. Oh, so it's just telling us that this area defined, there's going to be a burn in the area defined as this. And it could go from the surface to 2,000 feet AGL. So they're going to do a prescribed burn, basically. So not really a concern for us, again, as a dispatcher. If there's smoke or something of concern for us with dispatch, if it's reducing the visibility at the airport, that will be shown in our TAF or our METAR. And not in our TAF so much, but in our METAR, and will be something we address at that point in time. It's not something that would be a big concern to us when we're going through our NOTAMs. So airspace is another one that we can just kind of quickly scan over and keep moving. So these COM ones, again, not as much of a deal for us dispatchers. This one's just basically saying that our remote transmitter receiver on this frequency is changed to this frequency. So in dispatch, we don't really use the radios, right? That's more of a pilot job. Okay. Yvonne, why don't you take a stab at that one?
So it's the 355th NOTAM in January at JFK, runway 04L and 22R. The leadoff light for I don't know what TWY is. FE, I'm thinking, is it east side out of service from January 25th, 2018 at 0848 Zulu till April 25th, 2018 till 1100 Zulu.
Okay.
For 1100.
Good. So the leadoff lights for taxiway Foxtrot and Echo, for Foxtrot east side of the taxiway, they're out of service. So basically, it's telling us that if you're landing on this runway, just a heads up. This is one of the runway ones, so it's not going to pertain so much to us dispatchers. It's more giving the pilots a heads up that, look, only one side of the taxiway Foxtrot is lit up off of this runway. So good, yeah. What is this again?
Airport, airdrome.
Uh-huh.
Is it aerodrome? Did that mean airport?
Yeah, so aerodrome, yeah. It's the same as saying airport, right? So good. So this one applies to us dispatchers, but I am not going to make you guys go through it all. Basically, it's saying that all international carriers must contact terminal operator prior to dispatch for confirmed gate assignment. So it's just saying, hey, you guys need to make sure that you're checking in and getting the correct gate assignment because they're subject to change. Terminal 1 contact center JFK. Here's their email address. For Terminal 4, contact that phone number. Terminal 7, contact that phone number. And this is an effective date for basically the next year. So it applies to us, right? So aerodrome. So if you're dispatching an international carrier, it's just telling us that you got to get your gate assignment from the center before before you dispatch the release, or dispatch the flight. So, okay. Let's see, who do we have next? John, go ahead and take care of that one for us. You on there, John? Can see your mic's on, but I'm not hearing you. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why your mic's not working. I can see like you're talking, but can't hear you. There we go.
How about now?
There we
Can you hear
go.
me? Might have some feedback. Okay. So the 12th NOTAM in August, affecting JFK, runway 13 left. VASI, decommissioned. I don't know what that is.
So the VASI is it's a visual approach.
Yeah, that's the lights.
Mm-hmm.
Decommissioned August 1st, 2017 from 1819 to permanent.
Yeah, And here's why the VASI's out of service or decommissioned, because they put in a precision approach. So VASI is basically a 2-light system. PAPI is a 4-light system on the side of the runway, a little more precise of a lighting system, a little easier to see. So they decommissioned the VASI and commissioned the PAPI. Good. All right, let's see. Marisa. Did I say your name right, or am I saying it wrong?
Oh, that's right. It's Marisa.
Okay. I just didn't want to be saying it all this time and be saying it wrong. That'd be bad. Okay. Let's see. Why don't you take care of that one?
Okay, so this is Seattle. It is the 23rd NOTAM of the year. This is the navigational aid. I don't know what the VORTAC is, but I think that's another, not part of an approach system, but it's out of service from February 7th, 2018 at 1600 Zulu to February 7th, 2200.
Yeah, so the VORTAC it's a VOR with basically DME reporting, but the TAC is military, a military basically usable VOR. So yeah, we use the VOR and the DME off of that VORTAC for our approaches or for navigation. So good job. Just saying that it's going to be out of service from this time to this time. And let's see, Matt, why don't you just finish us off with this one right here?
Okay. At Seattle International, it will be the 21st NOTAM of February. It's still at Seattle. The air drone autopilot. No. I don't know what the AP stands for, but runway status lighting system is out of service from February 8th, 2018 at 8 a.m. to February 8th, 2018 to 1 p.m.
Okay, good. So,
it's AP approach.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was that at first, but I thought approach was 2 P's, not 1 P.
Yeah, it depends. Let's take a look. I just want to make sure.
Because that was my first guess.
So, AP. Let's see. Airport.
Oh, okay.
So, aerodrome or airport, basically. Runway status light system out of service.
So is it saying the whole entire airport of like all the lights?
Yep. So the runway status light system is out of service. So what I believe this is talking about is there is a lighting system that will basically tell the pilot visually when an a runway is in use when somebody takes a runway. So I believe that system is out of service is what that's saying. So yeah, you guys did a good job. Does anybody have questions on what they're seeing and what they need to look for as we're going through these?
I think it is. What does BTN stand for?
Between.
Oh, yeah, okay, between. And then SC.
Sierra Charlie. So that's the taxiway. Yeah, Sierra Charlie's the taxiway. So yeah, just make sure that you're looking for those keywords: runway, aerodrome, nav. Those are your really big like indicators that's something that you need to look at a little closer. Okay.
Okay, I got the top one right here. So where it says the second one down, where it says C and then com. Does that stand for com radio?
So com is just yeah, it's talking about communication. It's something in the communication system. Again, we don't worry too much about com because we're not the ones talking on the radio, so it'd be something more in the pilot's wheelhouse. But but yeah, just like we did with that AP, go through the NOTAMs, and then here you go. That's why I'm saying that the only way you're going to know what these NOTAMs are saying is practice, because are you guys going to be able to remember everything that's on this list? These are all the possibilities that you could see, and there's even sometimes more than that. Sometimes, depending on the person that's entering the NOTAM, they may make up something just to cover a subject that they feel is pertinent, but there's not really an abbreviation for it. So that's why I'm saying, like, it takes practice. There's only so much we can do in the classroom time to help you guys read these and understand them. Just take a look, and there's a couple dozen that are going to be commonly used, but if there's any question about it, just go and look up NOTAM abbreviations, figure out what it's saying, and then decode the NOTAM. As you can see, there's things that I don't even understand what the abbreviation is, and I have to use this list all the time. So the important part to remember, though, is just looking for those keywords, looking for the stuff that pertains to us as dispatchers, and then from there we can figure out what's actually pertinent to us dispatching. So we've talked about the D NOTAMs. Let's talk really quick about the FDC NOTAMs. So we said that the FDC NOTAMs are things that are directly affecting some part of our approach procedure or departure procedure, right? Whether it be the SID, the STAR, the instrument approach plate, something has changed and they're notifying us of something that may affect us. So when we look at these, all of these, we're going to look and see if it applies to the approach or to the SID or STAR that we're using on our runway, or departing or arriving at the airport. So things like this, this is just telling us that it reads the same as the other NOTAMs, where this is the month, this is the number of NOTAM it is for that month. So 142, 142nd NOTAM of January at Seattle, runway 16 left, 4,000 feet, distance remaining sign not lighted. So that last 4,000 feet of runway 16 left, there's a sign to the side that notifies a pilot that there's 4,000 feet left of the runway, and the sign's not lit. Not really affecting us, but we want to look at it, right? The TCM VOR is out of service. May affect one of our approaches. Most likely not, because this is a permanent, right? And look at the date stamp for when this is effective. January 30th, 2018. So this one just barely went into effect. This may affect one of our approaches, and that's the whole making sure your chart is current. So we'd want to take a look at that and make sure that none of our approaches or departures or even our arrivals are using this TCM VOR. Here's an obstruction. Again, not really affecting us. Look at this, 2,574th NOTAM of August. Seattle Instrument Approach Procedure for Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, Seattle, Washington. ILS runway 34 right, Cat 1 and Cat 2, Amendment 2D. Procedure not available. And the reason why that procedure is not available is there's a crane in the way. So that's an example of an obstruction changing our flight plan. So once again, this only applies to ILS, runway 34 right. So if we had to use category 1 or 2 minimums for 34 right, and we wanted to use the instrument approach or the ILS for 34 right, we couldn't do it because there's a crane right in the middle of the flight path. So we could go into our instrument approach procedures and we could cross that one off the list. Can't use it. Can't even plan to it, right? And it's telling us that 16 left is also closed. The procedure is not available because, once again, a crane's in the way. So we can go through these, and we're gonna do the same exact thing that we're doing with the D NOTAMs. We're gonna read them, just kind of figure out what applies to us and our procedures that we want to do, and then apply them to our flight planning. This one's saying that the SID Atom, the Atom 2 departure, which is an RNAV departure. Okay, it's telling us to disregard the note. Top altitude 15,000 feet. Note the top altitude 9,000 feet. And then here's the different waypoints, right, or transitions. And then it's saying that radar is required. So that one doesn't really apply to us because, first of all, we're not using RNAV. And second of all, it's telling us to disregard these altitude restriction notes, which, once again, is something that the pilot's going to be more concerned about than we are as dispatchers, right? Let's see. Who wants to take a stab at decoding an FDC NOTAM? Don't all speak at once.
I can try. I could try. Let's see.
Okay.
I spy an aeroplane.
There you go.
Okay, so let's see. August. So there's 6,200. There's basically 6,200. Or 6,207 NOTAMs of August. JFK initial approach fix.
Nope.
No, sorry. Initial approach procedure.
Instrument approach procedure.
Instrument approach procedure at JFK International Airport, New York City. The ILS or localizer runway 13 left. Amendment 18. ILS runway 13 left. Category 2. Amendment 18. DME required except for aircraft equipped with suitable RNAV systems with GPS and the LGA lateral guidance. No, sorry. LGA. I think LGA is a type of VOR out of service from February 6, 2018, 12 p.m. or 12 Zulu to February 13th, 2018, 1301 Zulu. Wait, no. February 13th, 2018 at 1:35 Zulu estimated.
Great. Good job. So, I mean, you can see there that it's almost identical to our D NOTAMs, right? Does anybody else want to give one a try, or do you guys feel like we're kind of beating a dead horse with these FTC NOTAMs?
I think they're easy to. Well, they're kind of easy to understand, but like some of them I don't see. Like what if like I know what the regular NOTAMs are trying to tell us, but what do these tell us exactly? Like what do we have to look for?
These are changes to the actual approaches, departures, or arrivals. This is talking more about like our navigation type NOTAMs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the local NOTAMs talk about things that are physically going on at the airport, right? These are talking about the routes that are coming in and out of the airport.
Okay, so FDCs have more to do with just procedures.
Exactly.
Okay, let me write that down. So, yeah. FDCs talk about procedures. Okay, and then one other question I had was when it says Amendment 18 or Amendment whatever number, like what is the amendment part for?
This is telling us that there's a change to the route. So this is the 18th, that one that you were reading, that was the 18th amendment to that route. This one, Amendment 18, number 18. So it's telling us that we've changed this 18 times, this ILS.
Okay, so amendment is basically just saying that's how many times we're changing it.
We have changed it, yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Where do these NOTAMs come from? Like who puts these together? I'm sorry?
Who generates them?
Yeah, like where do they come from for us to be able to like check? Like who's putting these together?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So the NOTAMs are written by the airport facilities. These NOTAMs are. So any changes that's happening to the navigational aids, to the facilities at the airport, those are all going to be changes that are done by and notified to the airmen by that facility that's in charge of those, right? So NOTAMs are generated by the actual airport or the FAA. So
I just picture a guy with a typewriter in the back room based on this format.
yeah, and that's, I mean, more or less, right? It's the FAA. They're putting these together. So
does each airport have their own person from the FAA, like, in there doing this, or is it kind of like a collective?
So it's kind of
job?
yeah, it's a basically the facility. So the airport director is the one that is in charge of approving these NOTAMs, and they're the ones, and the FAA. They're kind of a hand in hand, and they're responsible for notifying. Or for putting these NOTAMs together. So they work hand in hand, but pilots do not put these in, or like us as dispatchers, we don't make NOTAMs. But that being said, pilots and dispatchers can create reports called PIREPs, and that we'll look at those later and talk about what those mean. So.
Okay, cool. What is Pauling? Down at the bottom on that last one. Pauling to arrival. PW.
Okay.
L.
So these are the here, let's see. So the arrival, this is talking about the star. If we come down here, oh, this isn't, let's see. This is JFK. I don't think we have JFK. Anyways, JFK, let's look at Sky Vector. So if we come down here to the star charts, arrival charts, Pauling 2, we can see it here. It's a good question. So this is where we apply it, right?
Okay.
So we'd look at this Pauling 2 arrival.
How did you just know that?
Lots of practice. So when they're talking about an arrival, just always think of, like, remember, these are talking about routes specific to airports. Okay, so it's talking about JFK Airport, and it's talking about an arrival.
Oh, okay.
So that translates to us an arrival, so a star for JFK Airport. So what this is telling us is to correct communications data. So it's changing the frequencies. It wants us to know that the frequencies should be this instead of the 128, 125, or 269 frequencies.
Permanently.
And that's a permanent change. So these two frequencies, these approach contact frequencies, it's basically telling the pilots that they need to, instead of contacting those for approach, they need to contact those. Do you see those numbers that I'm pointing to?
Mm-hmm.
Let me zoom in a little bit more. Wonder if we can rotate this.
So it just
So these two
to have been
frequencies.
changed on the chart.
Yep, it's just telling them to make that change to the chart.
Okay.
So the next time they release this chart, if you look here, this chart's good from February 1st, 2018 to March 1st, 2018. And we see those frequencies, but the next time, so when they update this chart in March, on March 1st, those frequencies are going to change to this, because if you look, this NOTAM, FTC NOTAM, came out February 1st, the day they released that chart. They changed that.
Okay.
Kind of cool to see it applied, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
Yes. I like it when things kind of start to fall into place. I think you can see where the pieces go instead of just learning a bunch of like random information.
Those aha moments, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. So, it's kind of the same thing here. IAP, just automatically think instrument approach plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's telling us if we pull up this instrument approach procedure, we can come back here. So it's talking about, let's see, RNAV GPS Y for runway 4 right, okay? Runway 4 right, let's find the RNAV right here. It's talking about this chart right here. And if we zoom in on it, so the LPV decision altitude of visibility, all cats are RVR 1800. So it's talking about the LPV decision altitude. So it's telling us to switch this from a 24 to an 18. You can see how that would apply to us dispatchers, right?
Because it changes
Changes our minimum.
the minimums, yeah.
So instead of that runway being, about a half mile, it goes down to a quarter. So does anybody have any questions, any other questions on these FTC NOTAMs?
I'm excited to be doing something that just makes sense.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, it takes a lot of practice to figure this out and kind of put the puzzle pieces together. But there's only one way to really figure it out and be able to really grasp it. That's
it's
just
not
practicing
easy,
it.
but it's simple.
Yeah. So that pretty much takes up the whole night. I don't really want to get into air traffic control right now because we couldn't really do anything with it. We'd be cut short on time. So, does anybody have any questions about what we talked about tonight, or any questions about the quiz tomorrow?
So did you drop that video in our folder?
What was that?
So did you drop that video in our lesson plan?
I'll drop it into the lesson plan right after class tonight. I want to make sure I have the right video,
Okay.
so I'm going to have to listen to
Awesome.
it for a minute. But
Thanks.
and I'll also put in a link to that abbreviations, where to find the abbreviations, and I'll also put the link in for this NOTAM database website, so you
Okay.
guys can practice.
So I guess my question for the NOTAMs would be when it comes time to do a quiz on NOTAMs, are we gonna have to are we just gonna do that ordinary answer to all the questions on the test, or are you gonna give us one of those fill out or tell me what all these NOTAMs mean? Like you're gonna give us a sheet of paper or whatever and tell us decode all this.
It's going to be decode this NOTAM, and we'll have a specific NOTAM that we want you to decode.
Okay.
But it's going to be a lot more than just that, though. I mean, you're like I said, this is a pretty integral part of what we do as dispatchers. And as I relayed in that example tonight about how important it is that we catch these things from both a safety standpoint and from a fiscal or financial standpoint. It's pretty important. I mean, it's a big part of our job, because if we're not legal, if we're dispatching to an airport that's not legal to dispatch, it's a safety hazard. It's a complete, it's complete disregard for one of our sole responsibilities as a dispatcher. So it's key that we do our best to understand these things. And like Adam and I have relayed in the past, it's really key to not necessarily know all of the abbreviations or what each individual specific thing means, but to be able to find what it means is just as important. And that's why I want you guys to just, like Corey said, regular exposure, looking up the abbreviations. For some reason, like I can watch somebody do something all day, but it doesn't click until I actually do it and actually look it up and apply it. That's when everything really clicks for me personally. So look it up, kind of like CJ pointed out on that one NOTAM. It was talking about, the arrival. Look it up and use SkyVector. We kind of showed you how to use SkyVector. Look up the airport that it's talking about. Try to find the procedure that it's talking about, and everything will just start clicking. That's how you really grasp these principles. So, any other questions or concerns?
No, sir.
Okay.
Not yet.
City,
Just gonna be getting used to seeing the same stuff over and over.
Yeah. Corey, city codes aren't really a requirement for this course. I wouldn't be too worried about that. City codes just kind of come. I don't know how else to put it, because, what I have to memorize is SkyWest city codes. If you work for Great Lakes, it has no, I mean, some of the airports may be the same, but for the most part, you probably wouldn't be flying into the same airports that I would be all the time. So we're not going to make you memorize city codes. If you want some city codes to memorize, I would do like the big hubs. I'd look into like JFK, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Fort Worth, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland. Those are kind of your main hubs. If you know those city codes, that should be adequate. Yeah, and when you and when you get to the airline or where you're working, you'll learn the specific. They're not specific to SkyWest, but the locations. The airport codes are just a general, like Seattle, KSEA. Every airline's going to use that same identifier, but you're going to learn the ones that apply to your airline. So I hope that makes sense. Any other questions or concerns?
Nope.
Okay. I will. We'll start class. We'll start class off with the test. No review before we start the test. Just go over the notes that you took tonight, and then we'll just start off with that. I'll just send out an email at 5:30 with the test, and just reply back with the answers. If you're using the Google Docs or whatever, just make sure that you share the file with me so that I can. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to basically convert it to a Word before you guys can make any corrections to it. I'm going to convert it to a Word document, and then I'll put it in your folder when I've graded it. So, Corey, if you guys live in the St. George area and you'd like to study, Dixie State Library, they have a bunch of those group study rooms, and you'll probably run into some SkyWest dispatchers. A lot of the dispatchers that I've been in class with use Dixie State for studying, so you probably run into some of them while you're over there. But anyways, if there's no questions, then I'll let you guys loose for tonight. So.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Got him.